Hello everyone, Melanie here with CGL Recruiting, and today we're going to be talking about what should you and what should you not bring with you when you're going to one of those on-site interviews. It is very exciting to hear from so many of you that a lot of you are getting interviews. I am so happy for you all. The market will improve for those of you that haven't quite landed an interview yet. This is the toughest market job seekers have ever been in. So if you have not gotten an interview yet, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Keep at it, job seekers. There are going to be jobs coming available more and more. So let's talk about what you should and should not bring to an interview that's in person. And let me say, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that now. Ring that bell for notifications and give us that thumbs up if you feel like this information is helpful. So the first thing that you should always bring with you when you go to an interview is an ID. Now, some people say, well, what do I need identification for? And some companies will say, oh, you need it in case they want to hire you on the spot. Well, unless you're going for like a retail position or position in a restaurant or something that does that kind of on-the-spot hiring, I actually don't recommend you be accepting a position and be ready to give over your ID right then and there on an interview. There should be some more discussion or thought put into it, and you shouldn't feel pressured to immediately say yes unless it is a position that normally does that. What you need the ID for is a lot of times you will go to a site and they will require you to have one in order to get a visitor's badge or in order to get through security. So do make sure you have some kind of ID, a driver's license or something that is available in case you are required to present it to prove you are who you say you are. The next thing that you should always bring with you is 5 copies of your resume. And if your resume is more than 1 page long, you need to staple them so they're actually attached to each other each page. Now, if you're going to be interviewing with more than 5 people, which I would hope not in one interview, but if for some reason you are and you know that in advance, you always want to have 2 extra resumes over the number of people that you think you're going to be interviewing with. Now, these resumes should be ones that, again, are tailored to the position that you're applying for, highlighting the key strengths that you bring to the table that you know that this company is going to want. If you're still needing help with your resume, please go off, watch our video on how to get past the applicant tracking systems with the 2020 preferred resume. But you do need to have at least 5 copies. I can tell you I have lots of examples where a candidate will go in for an interview and they will have made it through the talent acquisition or recruiting team. They get in with the hiring manager and the hiring manager says, I don't know where your resume is right now, or I'm going to have to print it off from my computer. You want the focus to be on you and your great skills. It's so much easier if you can just whip out a copy of that resume and hand it to them directly rather than them having to dig for it. Our next one you may or may not have, and that is business cards. Now, you don't want to give out business cards from the position that you're currently in. What you're looking more is a generalized job seeker or networking type of a business card. Now, you got to be kind of judicious with these because you don't want to be every person you meet, the person you meet in the elevator, the receptionist at the front desk. You don't want to be giving out 30 business cards when you're there because it's going to be giving the wrong impression. But sometimes it can be very nice if you do have to have contact data to give to somebody quickly to be able to give them just that business card. Now, again, because this is something where you're applying for a position, you want to make sure any of your previous company information is not on there. If you need help figuring out how to do a networking business card, there's lots of resources that you can look at on Google, and they are definitely cheap to get. You can usually get about 250 for less than $10. Now, as a job seeker, again, this is something that can be very, very crucial to you also when you're doing different networking events. The next thing that you should bring with you is a portfolio. Now, the portfolio is going to be different depending on the type of position that you're in. If you are a graphic design person, it's going to be loaded with one set of data different than if, for example, you are a doctor. And if you're a doctor, you may have a list of publications that you have helped to co-author or peer reviews that you have done. When you're looking at a portfolio, it is not the traditional just artwork or civil drawings that you have. It's information that gives further evidence of how great your skills and experience are. Now, you do need to be careful when you do create a portfolio that you don't want to include any confidential information that is from a company past. So for example, you don't want to give out, drawings to a certain part that you may have created that you're showing another company that's not public knowledge. So do be careful about the confidentiality piece of it, but every role can have some type of portfolio of additional things that you can't put on a resume because it'll just make it like 30 pages long that you can include in this portfolio document. Now, there's two ways to look at a portfolio. You can have the ones that are yours that you keep, or you can have ones that are ones that you can actually give out to a company that you are hiring or looking to interview and get hired on by. Now, you don't want, again, this is not a 50-page document. You're going to want to judiciously choose things to go in there that are going to make the most sense. So make sure when you are choosing what goes in, make sure it's things that attach to the role that you're trying to get. So I would like to tell you an actual story about this. There was a mechanical engineer that I was aware of that was being interviewed by a hiring manager for a role. And when that individual was meeting with her, he was not that impressed. When he just looked at her resume, he thought maybe there was something there. But she actually brought with her a portfolio of some parts that she had designed utilizing a software program while she was still in college. And it gave a jumping off point during the interview where this interviewer and this candidate talked about the things that she showed him in her portfolio. And from that conversation, he was able to garner more information about her experience and get a higher comfort level about what a great fit she would be for the role. And in that case, I even know that this person did make her an offer based solely on that conversation and interview because of what she brought in that portfolio. Another great thing for you to have access to during an interview is your calendar. Now, for some of you, you may keep your calendar on your electronic device, whether that's your phone, your iPad, whatever. If there is a way to have your calendar available, it can be really helpful in the end of an interview if they say, you know what, I would really like you to come back tomorrow and meet with this person. Do you have time at 2 o'clock? And for you to be able to answer that right then and there and schedule it right then and there can definitely be beneficial. Now, my only caveat to this is I am a huge believer that you should have that phone either left at home, left in the car, or if you bring it in, on airplane mode. Lots and lots of stories can I tell you of people getting their whole interview blown out of the water by a phone ringing, by the text going off constantly, by alarms that they had set ringing. You want to try and make sure that you are keeping any distractions from your phone out. The best way to do that, put it on airplane mode. Then if you have to go back and access that information on your calendar, you can at that point in time pull it out and turn it off airplane mode to get to your calendar. Now, the next one I'm going to give you, I have definite mixed feelings on, so please make sure you're doing it in an appropriate manner. And that is a notepad with a pen or pencil. And I'm hesitant to tell you this one because the worst thing you can do during an interview is to be sitting there taking notes because you don't want to be pulling the focus away from the conversation and have the person focusing on you taking the notes. So I usually recommend that you do have a notepad and a pen, but you do not take any notes during the interview. You want to have it just in case for some reason they ask you to record something. And you definitely want to use it after the interview is over and when you get back to your car so you can quickly take some notes down in order to capture information about the interview that you can use for your follow-up in a thank you email or a thank you note. So please don't just take the notes during the middle of the interview. Okay, so let's talk about 3 things that you should never bring with you to an interview. The first one is going to be references. Unless you're going for like a retail or a restaurant job where you're having to fill out an application with references right then and there, I recommend you do not bring a list of printed out references that you can hand to somebody if they ask you. Instead, say, I would be happy to send those to you. What is the best email address for me to send them to? And the reason for this is you want to tailor your references to the position that you're applying for. You don't want to have the same references for every position. You want ones that are going to be able to talk about and highlight the skills that you have that relate to the position that you're applying for. And the other thing is you want to give your references usually a heads up. That way they will answer the phone or answer the email when this person calls and know that you're okay with releasing data about you. And also you can give them some information about the company and the position. Like, I am applying for this position of VP with this public company that is in the following industry. Oh, well, you would be a great match to that. Here's what I can tell them. Give them a moment to think about it in advance instead of them just getting a blind call. So another thing you don't want to bring with you is written questions. You should be prepared to answer some questions or ask some questions at the end of them, maybe one or two. The last thing you want to do is come in with a list of written questions that you're trying to sit there and talk through with this entire interviewer where they feel like you're grilling them. So keep your questions in your head, not written down, and make sure you're only asking a couple that make sense and that you feel like there's a good chance of the interviewer being able to answer for you. And the last thing that you should never bring is, please, again, don't bring any kind of drinks or food or anything else that's going to distract from you and the interviewer having a conversation and a discussion about the position and how you fit into that position. So anything else is going to be a distraction, and anything else should most likely stay at home. Now, with all the things that I did tell you that I recommend heavily you bring, it is important that you bring them in a way that shows that you are organized and that you can easily get to things without having to dig through 50 pages on a briefcase. So before you go into the interview, organize your different items and things so you are really clear about where your resume is and where your portfolio is and what you can hand out, so you show as best as you possibly can to the interview team. Good luck on all of those interviews, and thanks again for watching. I will see you next time.